And we are live. Welcome on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana. We are coming to you on the Smart Money Culture TV network. A lot of fun things that are going on there, a lot really going on in the world, period. Also, welcome on X, my favorite platform of all time. I still have a hard time calling it X, not Twitter, but I'm getting to it. Welcome on X, on YouTube, LinkedIn, the rest. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and the rest. Very nice to see everybody every morning. You are watching the Impact Money Show. So it looks like we're finally gonna have a turnaround here. I've been waiting for it, and I've been watching our eBay crypto ratings platform, which is one of my favorite AI platforms. Of course, Matt Dixon, who joins us every morning with the market report, is the man behind that. So I've been watching that, watching some of the upgrades. Of course, I'm long on a number of different assets. I'm also long oil, which is looking pretty nice. But Bitcoin has been updated as well. Toncoin is triple A. So I think that when we have situations like this where the market is pulled back quite a bit and everybody is scared, remember, when everybody's scared, that's when you want to buy, right? When there's blood in the streets, that's when you want to buy. And when everybody thinks that it can never go any higher, when it can't go any lower and it's only going up, and we're going straight up to 100,000, then that's usually when you want to sell, okay? Doesn't mean you're always going to get the bottom, and it doesn't mean that you're always going to get the top. But it does probably mean that you're going to make a good trade. And in trading, that's what it's all about. You want to make more good trades than bad trades. That's the way it works. And that's how you make money. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor and all that good stuff. This is for entertainment purposes, educational purposes. And I have paid posts. And it's not financial advice, okay? Great to see everybody this morning. So big news, Turning Point. Of course, we had a great event there. Charlie Kirk, hats off to the guy. You know, he really delivered an event that was captivating. I mean, this was like really a captivating convention that he put on. I've done plenty of different events over the world myself, and I have to, hats off to the guy and the team. I mean, they really pulled off an amazing event. Very exciting. They had all the big names there. The speeches, some of the speeches that we carried on our platform itself were just absolutely through the roof amazing. We'll watch more of those in a bit. But after we go through some of the markets and the other stuff, but really did an amazing job. One of the things that came out of that was JD Vance. JD Vance he won the poll. They put together a poll, and of course there's always, oh, this and oh, that or whatever, and it was rigged or whatever. But at that Turning Point convention, at least, JD Vance won the poll to be the VP. Now, I don't know how much, who knows who Trump is listening to. I mean, I have no idea. I'll get to that, even more of that in a minute. But actually, I do have some ideas. I always have ideas, right? But JD Vance moved out of that. Senator JD Vance. So on the short list, there's a number of different people. Of course, you have Ben Carson's on the short list. You have also have Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds, who I think would be pretty strong. I think Byron Donalds would bring voters. He would add, and it's just my thoughts, I think he would add excitement to the ticket. And I think from what I've seen, Byron Donalds, his thoughts are vetted. And he speaks strongly when he's supposed to, and he doesn't speak when he's not supposed to. Anyway, I think he would be great. I think, Vivek Ramaswamy is also in there. Of course, top choices for me are, of course, General Flynn, okay, Colonel McGregor. Colonel McGregor probably would be the best VP that we could have. I think the best choice for Trump, for VP, would be a former general or former McGregor's colonel, former colonel, somebody with military experience, because we're in a military situation in this country. We have if we are going to deport tens of millions of people, which is what they are advertising that we're going to do, that is a military operation. we did Operation Wetback in the 1950s, and that was a military operation. Now, if we're not going to do that, then that is a bit of a different story. But of course, we're in war all around the world. I do think that having some type of military person as the VP would be the best choice. I think otherwise, we're going to get somebody that is, you got to realize everybody that's in Washington has basically been, that you had to play the game. You had to play a game to win, right? And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't play the game or that these guys shouldn't play the game, because that's the way the world works. But it would be nice to have a guy that didn't play the game. And of course, a guy who moves up in the military has to play a game too. I agree with you there, but it's a different one. And I think that having a military guy would be advantageous. I think Trump is a very strong, he's very strong on the economy, and he can work with people and everything like that. So I think that if he got a VP that was basically, an establishment pick, which will probably be what happens. I'm not going to be upset if it happens. It will be par for the course. I think that's probably what will happen. It's not going to add much. It won't add much to the ticket. So, but JD Vance did win that poll. What do you think about it? Would you guys like JD Vance? Do you not like JD Vance? What are your thoughts about JD Vance? He seems like a nice guy. I don't know much about him. That was at the Turning Point People's Convention. Do you support it? Trump endorses Maloy, and this has caused a bit of a recoil, or a bit of I'm in several different groups, and everybody's, not everybody, people are upset about it. Maloy made he did like an interview or something, and, many of us were there on January 6th, and we were there and we were protesting in an election that we saw all the videos of people stuffing ballots, and we saw a lot of stuff. And to say that, that's, not important, or to try to say it didn't happen or whatever. I mean, there's video evidence. We all saw it. So we were upset. We went down there. There was Arizona was they had said that they might, lodge a complaint. And if Arizona had lodged a complaint against what had happened in Arizona, then they could have been sent back, and, things could have happened. Of course, they tried to say that wasn't the case. Vice President Pence would have, been the one to kind of move that along. But Arizona, of course, had to. I don't think they had to complain, but that was how it was stacking up to work. Now, they said that wasn't supposed to be the case, that the Pence couldn't do that. But then afterwards, they changed the rule, so Pence was able to do that. So, but there were a lot of people that were there, millions and millions of people that were there, and Maloy. Wrote something, and, oh my gosh, they took the Confederate flag to the Capitol. That didn't even happen in the Civil War, and blah, 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 and this and that and the other. And I mean, it's just like crazy. The intelligence agencies, by all appearances, were working very, very hard to cause dissension and to cause problems. We left early. I mean, it just turned out to be a mess. And we had, of course, we didn't go in the Capitol or anything like that. It was a mess. It was obviously, once Arizona didn't carry, or once they stopped everything, so that Arizona didn't get to really say that they were going to protest the election in Arizona, because that's what happened. So Arizona was going to protest the election, and then it was like they shut down Congress, and all the agitators caused this big thing that happened. Yeah, there you go. So whatever. But Maloy is on record of saying something like that. And it's just, so that has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Trump endorsed him over Mike Lee's endorsement for whatever that was. And that has causing speculation on who is advising the former president. I'd like your thoughts on that. Let me know. What are your thoughts? Who is advising Trump? Is he surrounding himself by people that are going to help him the right way, or is it kind of, I think a lot of people didn't like, I think his initial cabinet, his initial group of people that he had around him at the first presidency were great. And then as it moved on, and they had to, I think Pence really got rid of General Flynn, and then it was like, picking them off one by one. And at the end, after like a year or a year and a half, it was only Pence that was left. So, yeah, and I think that you can't, in that position, it's very hard to know everything. You have to listen to your advisors, right? You have to have people around you that you trust that can advise you well. So, your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. My ex is networks manager. A lot of you guys watch on X, so let me know what you think about that. I'd love to hear it. Who is advising the former president, what your thoughts on Maloy, and what your thoughts on JD Vance are. That would be very interesting. So back to the markets. Silver and gold are down today, depending on probably which area of the world you are looking at it. Stocks, Asian stocks are basically all up. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange was up. Now it's like a 0.1% down. It looks like it closed at basically flat, tepid, but it's been down over the last little bit. So, again, things look pretty primed to move. Also, before even I went to bed last night, the different currencies against the dollar were negative, but now they are positive. So you can see like the Japanese yen moving up on the dollar. Also, the yen moving up on the euro, different currencies moving up on the dollar, the DXY coming down slightly, or at least stopping the forward movement. Oil is above 80 again. We did predict that on the show a number of times. Oil is back above $80 a barrel. That was a nice buy in there. It went down to like $73 per barrel. Bitcoin, and we'll talk about more about this. I'm just about to pull on our good friend Matt Dixon here. But Bitcoin, again, looking pretty primed here. 65,445, down slightly on the 24-hour. Ethereum down 2%. BNB, I know the Evade platform has moved some things into the AAA. Sir Matt Dixon the Great, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, I was just looking around at prices. Yeah, interesting. You mentioned Ethereum, so I understand Ethereum is likely to get the actual green light now from the SEC to go live on possibly on the 2nd of July. So you never know, that could provide, a longer-awaited pump, because we've had a bit of a downturn. It'll be interesting just to see. Before we go to the charts, you remember yesterday I mentioned, and it's quite unusual, I mentioned Bitcoin had been downgraded from AAA to AA. I showed yesterday's show. And then following that, we saw quite a big sell-off overnight. It's not that they're necessarily that sensitive, but it just showed there was clearly some issues there. But actually, I noticed it's now been upgraded back up to AAA. So hopefully that's a precursor to another pump in the market. I'm not sure what's happening internationally. I did look into a little bit yesterday when you mentioned about the Israeli war cabinet being dissolved.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, I understand there's probably a bit more behind the story than at first appears.
Of course.
There's a couple of guys, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who were looking to be added to the war cabinet. And I know that Netanyahu was not entirely happy, and he understood that he's concerned about the potentially being leaks from the war cabinet. And so I think that's the reason it was dissolved, because there's a lot going on there. We know there's a lot with the guys that you mentioned, Hezbollah in Lebanon yesterday. They're firing more missiles than ever. There's still stuff going on with the Houthis. There's pressure all around. So they're making decisions.
I don't think that the war is stopping over there. I mean, I would like it to. I'd like the war to stop all over the place. But I think, there's probably some movement going on. I mean, it's a feisty bunch on both sides over there.
I fear that it may be the calm before the storm. Let's hope not.
I know, me too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of storms, what with Iran, and I don't think that's actually over as of yet. There was no particular response from Israel, but I think both sides are still unhappy with the outcome from that. So I'll just get into the charts. Let me just share screen again.
Already, boom.
So you should hopefully be able to see my screen.
Looking at the DXY, the US dollars.
Yeah, so Bruce was just mentioning, you were just mentioning, weren't you, about dollar had slipped a little bit. I mean, we can actually see the little bit of a slip down of the dollar there, but picking up again. So I was trying to
this
look
is
at
the hour, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is, I'm showing it short term for good reason. We did see, a strong pump higher and then a strong pullback and another strong pump higher. It wasn't quite 100%, whereas, if I just measure it very quickly to show you what I mean by that, the first measurement from the bottom there to the top there, if you measure that as 100% and transpose it here, you can see we actually went above the 100%. And so that means it obviously wasn't rejected. It was rejected first time. You can actually see there a spike candle that touched the 100% and price came back, but then it went back above. So that's telling me that probably the DXY may not be bounded by the 100% and it may actually go a little bit higher. If it does go higher, then that's likely to mean a little bit more potential negative for crypto and risk assets. But it's not quite clear. And the reason I'm saying it's not clear, and that's why I've got it on the 1 hour, just trying to expand the chart out a bit here so you can see. I am genuinely not quite sure whether this is an A, B, C or a 1, 2, 3. And that's actually the big conundrum with Elliott wave, is they're actually the same sort of wave pattern. So if it was A, B, C, basically you have 5, 3, 5. And if it's 1, 2, 3, basically it's also 5, 3, 5. So this is the conundrum, and you need to look at other indicators to give you some clarity. But potentially you can't quite see. I need to go to an even shorter time frame. I won't bother doing it right now. But basically this will be a 5 waves down, some kind of 3-wave move up, which is correct, then 5 waves down. And we can see the 5 waves from here, from this B and 2. We can see a wave 1, 2 up, 3 down, 4 up, and 5. So that's broken into 5. But also potentially you can see the whole move from the very top here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so there genuinely is confusion. I cannot tell from this chart alone whether we might get a bit more upside for dollar index. And that has big implications on where we're going with risk assets. So as I say, Ethereum's due for the SEC, probably give the green light on the 2nd. Maybe that'll be some positive news. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of worry, a lot of panic actually in the markets at the moment, because we have had, it's not a serious pullback
It's really not, right? I mean, it's funny. I was actually talking to I guess I won't call him out on TV, but I was talking to a good friend yesterday, and he's like, yeah, 42 Bitcoin, why doesn't Matt just go ahead and say what's going to happen? It's going to 42. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to 42, man. I think that's kind of wishful thinking. I think he mentioned 64. I think it might hit 64. Anyway, there is a lot of worry. There is a lot of worry in the market, but
yeah, there's a lot of worry in the market. We've got to try to. People seem to think. I mean, they have their crypto hat on. They know crypto is extremely volatile, and knowing that, and now it is becoming a more sort of traditional institutional type asset. Now we've got the ETFs and so on, and we're seeing a little bit less volatility. And it's just surprising. People are getting majorly panicking because we dropped from 74 to 64 or 73,
yeah.
something, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like we're talking like what, an 8% move or something? I mean, it wasn't even.
Whatever it is, it's a relatively modest move. When in the past we've seen massive, absolutely massive moves with little things in the market, and this move down does appear to be corrective. It's really choppy. If we move a bit lower, I think so what. I think the fundamentals are good. We need to look at the fundamentals behind it and stop panicking. We're supposed to be crypto people, so
HODL.
Have a bit of courage. I mean, if you're in this market, you're in this market because it's got amazing potential. Potential volatility means not just the upside, there's a bit to the downside as well. But if you believe in crypto and if you believe in Bitcoin, and it doesn't mean you don't have to believe that Bitcoin is going to take over the world, but it is, it's a solid foundational asset now. And if you think about it, I mean, I'm just thinking this off the top of my head, MicroStrategy, I understand they own about 210,000 Bitcoin now. You only need 100 MicroStrategies in the world to actually mop up all of the Bitcoin that will ever be in existence. And the thing is, the likes of MicroStrategy are hodling this stuff, like hodling Bitcoin long term.
Yep.
And there's more and more institutions now, like MicroStrategy. I mean, there's, just trying to think now. There's Block, there's Tesla, there's people now holding this as treasury basically on
Yep.
their books. So it's long-term holdings, and they're just mopping up available Bitcoin. I really don't understand quite why Bitcoin isn't higher than it is. But one thing,
I agree. Not to jump in on you there, but I think that they're obviously, to me, obviously holding it down with paper derivatives because they've mopped up all of these hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins over the last couple of months. And then the price should be well over $75,000, $80,000.
yeah, I think that this is basically, I really believe this is an opportunity for people to DCA, start DCAing into Bitcoin particularly, but maybe some of the other crypto assets. I think that we should, bearing in mind this is corrected to the downside, we should get a decent pump to the upside. And I think this is just an opportunity. And the problem is, retail in particular, the fear and greed thing, once that fear dial, well, when you get the greed dial moving to the top side, everyone buys, and they were buying as Bitcoin was above 70,000. Now it's falling. The fear and greed index is falling rapidly, and people are beginning to panic and sell out, thinking, "Oh, I don't want to lose more money." And this is the time when the big institutions they're going to be mopping up, and maybe they'll push prices a bit lower. Who knows, to mop up even more? But
Yep.
just think about this in the long term. The predictions have been, I'm just trying to think who it is now, there's a major fund manager. They predicted Bitcoin to be, what was it now? Was it $3 million or something ridiculous like that? Or was it's some tremendous figure within 10 years? But even by the end of this year, they're predicting 90,000 now. That's their target, 90,000 by the end of this year. And we mentioned yesterday, if you're looking at, somewhere near 50% on the current price of Bitcoin, surely
Big
it
move.
makes sense.
And
Yeah.
if you're on some type of derivatives platform or something like that, I mean, you can even go just a 2x leverage or something, and you're really happy. The 2 or 3x
Yeah,
and low risk.
Yeah, relatively low, but I mean, it is possible. It's conceivably possible that, especially if they see a lot of people leveraged on this, they're notorious for seeing. Don't forget, they're the other side of the trade. They can see where your trade is. They can actually see where your liquidation point is. And
Yes.
so, I wouldn't recommend in general that retail at all go for leverage. And if you do go for leverage, certainly don't go all in. Maybe a small part of your portfolio, maybe leverage that, because it is risky. I mean, if you're leveraging 2 times, the price would need to drop by not as much as half, less than half, to actually liquidate you, wipe you out completely. So it is.
True. No, it's 100%. I've been wiped out plenty of times, guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, with a bit of help from the likes of the eBay platform, we'll touch into a couple of the upgrades, downgrades. But here we had yesterday, we did say, I clearly mentioned on yesterday's show, and I looked at the recording about the Bitcoin being downgraded to AA. We've since had an upgrade, and price appears to be pushing to the upside. So I'm hoping this spike to the downside. I was a bit concerned yesterday when I saw effectively a 3-wave move up. And what that tells me is if there's a 3-wave move from here, 1, 2, 3, just to the top of this spike here, 3 waves, don't forget, is corrective. So that's corrective to the upside. So that was telling me there's likely to be another push to the downside, which is precisely what happened. And we still had effectively lower highs and lower lows. So we're still not out of the woods yet, but I'm just saying from a risk reward perspective, maybe time to dip your toes in the water with a bit of DCA. And, as I say, even if we go lower from here, as long as you're not leveraged, unless you're really brave, then you still should likely see some substantial upside. And that's what this arrow indicates. And that's the previous all-time high there. And I think that, again, we're not financial advisors, do your own due diligence, etc. But I think that I have reasonable confidence that this corrective move down will resolve and push them to the upside to at least challenge the previous all-time high, if not break through. And I think long term, barring any major geopolitical incidents, that longer term we should break much higher. And don't forget, we will be, I believe we will be looking at an interest rate reduction later this year from the US. And as I said yesterday, we're already seeing them elsewhere around the world. China will be stimulating their economy some more. We know that Europe and Canada have reduced rates already. UK will be reducing rates. So around the world, they'll be reducing rates. And this will have a deflationary knock-on effect to the US. And so the US will need to reduce rates later this year. And once we get a stronger sniff of this rate reduction coming through, then you can be sure that the market will be rallying.
Gonna fly. It's going to fly, of course.
Yeah.
As soon as the interest rates are lowered, the dollar is going to the risk assets are going to just fly.
Yeah, I mean, every time we've seen any little intimation that we're going to see lower rates. So, for example, when we got weaker CPI the other day, we got this strong pump in crypto on weaker CPI. Then the Fed came out and they're a little bit hawkish, and that's what pushed the markets back down again. So that just shows how mature this asset has become, because it's not just a purely speculative asset now. It does depend on the economic data and the expectations for interest rates, etc. So it's come of age now. Bitcoin has come of age, and it's reacting very much like other assets. So we'll just jump in straight here to SPX. We can see SPX, the S&P 500, is pushing higher.
Oh, yeah.
And there is quite a strong correlation between Bitcoin. I've shown it before. I think another day I'll probably show the two charts side by side again over a longer term. And you'll see that there is a good correlation between the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. And we can see here that it's within touching distance now of all-time high yet again. So I think maybe we're not a long way from a turning point, but I still think whilst the market is pushing to new all-time highs, you can't bet against it, because that's the opposite of like catching a falling knife. You cannot bet against a rising market or a falling market for that matter. Effectively, you cannot bet against the trend. The trend is still very clearly to the upside. And if we look long term, I'll just jump into the weekly here. I mean, just look at that. The strength of those moves, I mean, that is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Look at what's happened there. And what we're right at the top here. And if you say the market is about to turn here, it is a pure gamble from a risk-reward perspective. It's absolutely crazy, because who knows that this couldn't just continue on the way it's been going all the way with more and more green candles. There's nothing to indicate at the moment whatsoever that the market is going to turn. So yes, trade cautiously, but it's early to go short. You need some more confirmation of a change in sentiment and a change in direction before you were able to go short. So this, as I say, there's a good correlation here between S&P and Bitcoin, and it's been going up for a long, long time now. So that's telling me that it's premature to call for downside, even with Bitcoin. I do think that, again, this is looking at Bitcoin over exactly the same time scale. I'm looking on the weekly chart here. We can see the massive rises. So these are what are called impulsive. There's no overlap here, all impulsive. But you can just see all of the overlap going on here. This is what's called corrective movement. There's no clear direction. It's certainly not a trend to the downside yet. We can see there's a trend to the upside, but we cannot see a trend to the downside because it keeps changing its mind. If the price had a mind, it keeps changing its mind, basically.
We understand. Yeah, I mean, it's very, like you said, the trend is your friend.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe I'm making it a bit thick, but anyway, let's have a quick look at gold. So again, gold looks to be very much in corrective mode. We did say yesterday, I am expecting probably a little bit of a touch lower, because I don't believe this C wave is complete yet, because we've had an A, we've had a B, and we've had a C. So some kind of expanded correction. So basically, the B wave has gone above the origin of the A wave. You would probably expect the C wave to go beyond the end of the A wave, so beyond this level here. So when we said yesterday the price was here, we've dropped a little bit on gold, 0.33% overnight. I'm expecting perhaps a little bit more downside. But again, I do expect that we're going to break again to new all-time highs for gold. So as I've always said, gold and Bitcoin, which is digital gold, should form part of a well-diversified portfolio, because they're uncorrelated assets. They're not correlated with directly correlated with other assets, and so they should form part of that well-diversified portfolio. And especially when you see this kind of corrective sideways kind of move, it's not, the trend is still upwards. We're correcting sideways, so the trend is likely, the balance of the odds are it's likely to continue to the upside. So I'm still bullish there. And oil is basically, pushing, we pushed back above that support line, it's pushing higher. So at the moment, looking very short term, I mean, these are weekly candles, but if we went back to 4 hour, we'll see, looking at 4 hour right now, I suppose, overall, I mean, we need to break the resistance would be this level here, the previous spike high here. If we were to break above that, which is not far above now, 80.51, right now the price is 79.49, so we're only $1 away basically. If we were to push above that and break above that, that is going to be a bit of resistance there. If we break through, we should break higher then. So right now, it's looking relatively bullish for oil. Even though this is a bit of a corrective move to the downside, there's overlap. We can see that this price peak here overlapped into this here. So it's not a 5-wave move to the downside, it's a corrective move to the downside. So it's telling me that now most likely we probably are going to see more upside in oil. And as I said, historically, oil has actually underperformed. And so this being a correction here, it's not 5 waves, although it might look like it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is not 5 waves because, as I say, this move up here overlaps into this movement down here. And that is just not allowed from Elliott wave terms. So this is a correction down. So it's looking likely that we will push higher. So maybe for the time being, maybe there'll be supply constraints or maybe it'll be demand driven. We don't know as yet. I'll just jump into Solana. That one has taken quite a deep correction. It's been one of the
It really has.
But it's quite interesting because I'll just go back out longer term. From that top that we had, that local top of 209, we appear to have had, as I said yesterday, a 5-wave move down. Now this one is a legitimate 5-wave because this move up here, you can see wave 4, does not overlap into territory of wave 1. So this is a legitimate 5-wave move down. This is a legitimate 3-wave move up. But this is also a legitimate 3-wave move down. So 3 up, 3 down. I would expect there to be either a 3 or a 5 up. And I've got a target based on last night's dip down on price. We dipped down to 120. What was the price last night? About 127, 128 probably. 128 on Solana. So quite a lot lower. It's $10 lower than where we are right now. But we dipped down with a spike down and we're pushing back up. That dip down just spiked the 1.618. We're always talking about this 1.618. It's the golden ratio. Very, very important ratio that's used throughout all things nature, in nature and natural, but also charting. It's very, very, very important. So the fact that we went past the 100%, which was here, and then just tagged that 1.618 and then reversed immediately to the upside, that's the sort of thing that we're looking for when we're trading. If we tag an important level like this, the 1.618, we put stop loss a little bit below for potential, going up. You put your stop loss below, so if it does spike much lower down, yes, you stopped out, you make a loss, but it's not much because you enter here and your stop loss is close. But the upside is tremendous. From here, from 128 last night, there's potential upside to 199, and that's if this wave W here, and this is X, then the Y wave, if the Y equals the W, which is the most likely, then we would tag 199 on Solana. So that's tremendous potential gain there from 128 last night. So that's why from a risk reward perspective, it's great. So you had two things in your favor. You have the price in your favor. So the potential gain is from 128 to if you call it 198, you're talking $70 upside. And then the downside, a sensible stop loss might have been 123. So maybe $4 downside to $70 upside. So you can see the ratio there, 70 against 4, massive risk reward ratio there. And then also on top of that, the risk of breaking higher was actually, there's a bigger chance of it pushing up from this 1.618 than there is of it pushing down. So not only do you get a 70-4 in your favor on the actual reward that you get, the risk is also in your favor that the probabilities are that it's actually going to break higher rather than lower. So even if you had a 2-to-1 chance there on the risk and you got 70 against 4, that's basically 140 against 4. It's a phenomenal trade. So for me, that's a great place to have jumped in. And those are the things that I look for as a trader. And as I say, what I do with we'll jump into, because I don't think we've got that much time, we'll jump in very quickly to eBay, because what I do is I use the eBay tool to identify assets that I'll look at. I then do my my due diligence, and then I will look at the charts. And so it narrows the search down if I use the eBay tool.
So hold on. Did you switch screens because we still have the Sol chart up?
I haven't switched screens yet.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
So, okay. So I will do now. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's just play that one from the start, just so you can see it in full. So here's the notification. So we had a downgrade yesterday on Bitcoin to AA. It actually upgraded back up today to AAA. And so I am expecting probably we'll see a rise there. So these are some of the coins that turned up in the watch list for on eBay. So as I say, what I'll do is, these are the ones I'll be looking at right now. So we got an upgrade, all of them upgraded to AA, which is a really solid rating in itself. So well-known tokens, Chainlink, ICP, Cosmos, Avalanche, and Toncoin. So amazing assets there to be looking at. Now, you might just want to put a little bit into each, but certainly do more due diligence onto them, look at the charts, see whether the risk reward is correct. But this is what I use to look at 700 assets. I've crystallized it down to 5 assets immediately. Now I can focus my attention on those 5 assets and decide then whether it's a good trade or not. The chances are I'm looking for potential upside because they've all been upgraded here. So I'm looking at my charts with the background or the flavor of potentially a buy on these assets. But I'll look at the risk reward, I'll look at the charts, I'll look at the indicators and say, does it make sense? If it does, I put possibly weeks worth of research into just maybe an hour's worth of research to identify assets that I want to jump into to profit from a potential rise in the market. So we won't spend more time on those, although I'd love to spend more time on the eBay platform, and we'll do that, I guess, in time. Are we done on time, Bruce, or can I just touch a couple of other assets?
We can touch a couple of assets. I'm just going to review some of the turning point stuff near the end of the show. So,
okay. So one I was questioned on today was Litecoin, and really interestingly, again, we've had this long-term, what I call stop loss zone, take profit. So we had a sell signal some time ago. The sell signal was based on, basically, it was a hidden bearish divergence. You can't see the RSI in here, I've taken it out, but this was actually hidden bearish divergence here. Basically, it showed lower highs on price. At the same time, we did have higher highs on RSI. So that was telling me hidden bearish divergence. That was telling me of a continuation in the downtrend for Litecoin. And that's precisely what happened. We had this arrow pointing, it was there because we had the divergence. Then we got some negative candlestick formation. So it was a sell. Now, what I did say is with the sell there, when you get into this stop loss zone, take profit zone, as I call it, that take profit was for basically if you'd entered short here based on these signals, and that's the sell signal there, you basically sold. This was the area to take profit anywhere between here and here. I'll be protecting here. We see once before in recent history, that is, locally, we spiked below the this stop loss zone, just very briefly below. It's just a spike, and then we went back up higher. That is precisely what's happening right now with Litecoin. So if I had gone short here, I would be taking my profits anywhere. Even now, I'd be happy taking my profit. And right now, I'll be happy potentially looking at a long position with a stop loss below this spike low here. So the downside is minimized. The upside, again, is really, there's some real potential there. And what I would do, if I entered long here with a stop loss here, if price goes up, when we get to this longer term trend line here, I'll protect my price just in case we just hit that overhead resistance and bounce back down again. So then as soon as it moves into profit, I'd move my stop loss, protect guaranteed profit. If it moves up, I'd move my take profit or my stop loss to right up close to it. If we break through, I get loads more profit. If it breaks down, I'm guaranteed profit. That's the kind of way I'd look to trade. And I think just finally, Jasmy, it's been a really popular one and got a massive following, as I said. I think we had basically a wave 3, some kind of wave 4 here. I think most likely we've completed the move down. This is the wave 4 completion, but it is possible that we basically have an A, B, and C, that it could even dip a little bit lower. But I'm still reasonably confident that this is just a smaller fractal wave 3, wave 4, and we've got another push up for wave 5, which completes a larger wave 5. So like the other assets, short term, there's a little bit of uncertainty, there's a bit of negativity, there's a bit of fear in the market. But longer term, slightly longer term, whether it's from here, whether it's from here, I think we're going to get a push up in a final, a really good, powerful push up higher with Jasmy.
Now, tell me more about it. Is Jasmy you? Is it? Tell me more about it.
With Jasmy, I don't know a great deal about it because I look more at technicals. I just know it's got a massive following. The performance has been phenomenal. It's got some excellent Fibonacci relationships. So as you know, I look at things from a technical point of view. So we were looking at it right from these support areas where price tagged support over and over and over and over again. So this was the sort of buy area, this blue channel here. That was the area to be buying. And we had basically a very clear A, B, C tagging this channel once again. That was the time to jump in. You got a wave 1 up, 2 down, testing the top of the channel. So this was actually the area to buy into it here, tagging the top of the channel to buy in there. And then we've got some excellent fib relationships along the way. So it's just one of those newer tokens, Jasmy. As I say, it's got a phenomenal following, really enthusiastic community. And, you know, this being impulsive move up, I think it's just corrected down. I do think we've got higher to go. So from risk reward perspective, it's another great token to be looking at. And there's so many others, but you know they're all down today yet again. But I think we're reasonably close to a turnaround, especially when you look at those eBay ratings. The fact Bitcoin has just been upgraded, I think it was this morning. So maybe we should start looking at Bitcoin. As I say, with the Ethereum news coming through in just a few days, well, 2nd of July perhaps, I think people will probably start piling in back into Ethereum as well before the news. Because normally it happens before the news. When the news comes,
of course,
you get that thing, sell the news. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the EVA. It seems to be now giving us quicker turnarounds on the predictions. Is that part of the upgrade?
Yeah, there's. I'm just looking at the price again. We're still up 44% for the week. It's down 0.3% today, so it's better than the market. It's actually doing quite well now. So yes, the upgrades were basically to rebase the ratings based on this modern portfolio theory, which all traditional investment is based on modern portfolio theory, and using this technology called this efficient frontier, which builds perfect portfolios. So I noticed, I won't go into it right now, but Toncoin is actually in the optimal portfolio. So this is theoretically the best possible portfolio. There's other constituents, but Toncoin is one of them. Yep. So when we're looking at buys, that's another bit of evidence I'll look for. So eBay have upgraded the ratings, which is fantastic. They've got various time frames. You might look at 1 hour, 4 hour, 1 day, whatever. It depends on your trading time frames. But also we are migrating as to be one of the first major AI tokens on Solana. So it's not a migration, it's actually just adding Solana chain to the offering. And we're going out just in a matter of days now. So we're not giving the data away just yet, but we're going out in a matter of days for this. And we expect, we've got some big marketing to go behind it. We actually expect to be a decent pump in price. We can't guarantee, we don't know. I'm not shilling it. I'm just saying, I would expect with the marketing that we've got ahead of us and the fact that I'm expecting markets probably to turn to the upside from around these levels, I think that eBay offers some amazing opportunities because it's been in doldrums for a long time. But these upgrades, and there's been some phenomenal upgrades, you know, as you know, we won the Bybit hackathon based on the technology behind these upgrades. So it's solid. They're a panel of very knowledgeable judges who looked into the technology and ascertained, yes, it's genuine and it's adding value. And the things that will spawn off this, the fact that people will be able to run funds using eBay technology, they'll be rewarded for participation, for contributing to the ratings. There's all sorts of positive things to come to this token, which will gradually begin to build the community. And that's what you need. You need community, you need adoption, and then you get the price increases. And a reason to hold it would be that you get rewarded through utility of the token, which again, the token is having utility, real utility built into it. So I do think that eBay is one to watch. It's available right now on PancakeSwap. It's going to be available on Solana very soon. We're also going out on a launch pad as a financial raise, partially to fund the additional marketing, additional development, etc. But it's all going to be very, very positive for eBay. So I do think it's got a great story. So one to follow, and we'll come out with more details on exactly how to get involved if you would like to get involved.
Awesome. Well, as everybody knows, one of my favorite platforms. So very good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal when you think about it. The massive downside in most of the market, we are holding steady at the moment, down 0.3% today, but that's neither here nor there. Up 44% for the week. And it wouldn't surprise me, again, there's no promises, no guarantees, but it wouldn't surprise me to see this sort of performance continuing and even improving in the relatively near future. So I do think there's tremendous opportunity there. So let's keep an eye on what upgrades we've had. I posted, I mentioned some of those today. Let's just keep an eye on the market. Look forward to tomorrow and reporting on the results.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Matt. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Bruce. Thanks everybody for listening, and catch up tomorrow, hopefully.
Talk soon.
Cheers. Bye for now.
So I'll tell you, one of the things to come out of this Turning Point conference, and I know I talked about it as well at the beginning of the show, is that there's a lot going on, right? We have, of course, a lot of movement around there. There was a number of things to come out of there. One is that I don't know if surprised is the right word, but it was certainly, there was a lot of, 1776 talk and, this stuff on stage that I wasn't really expecting. I wasn't expecting that. Of course, you had the great Alex Jones on there, really pushing it forward. Nobody knows more of what can happen to you if you buck the system more than Alex Jones, right? And so he was on there, and he was talking very forcefully, as well as Posiak and these other guys as well. We had Stephen Bannon, and Bannon is supposed to report to jail as really a political prisoner, and he was saying, look, they are going to put Trump in jail. They are going to put him in jail, and everybody needs to be ready for that. There's an interview. I'm going to share my screen here because what he said, I think Steve Bannon, I played some of what the other guys said yesterday, but really Steve Bannon he had some very important messages for us. And here he is. Let's see here. I think this.
This has to do with justice. We've got to go back to the beginning. We've got to go back to Russiagate. We got to go back to who did that. We got to go back to Mueller's commission. We got to go back to Andrew Weissman and MSNBC and the New York Times and all of them. Right? We've got to go back. We've got to go back to the pandemic. We have to go back to the George Floyd Summer of Love. We have to investigate all. We have to go back. We have to go back to 3 November of 2020. We must go back there, and we've got to adjudicate how they stole it and who stole it.
I had taken myself off stage. Okay. So that was the full speech. I don't need the full speech. I want to just get some of the stuff that he said, though. Let's see here. Full speech again. Why don't we need the full speech, guys? Just give me some good clips here. Calls for he called for the complete dismantling of the FBI, which of course I call for quite often. It does need to happen. Here we go.
CIA, the FBI, the DNI, the CIA, all of them. And we're going to release every single person that either traffic people or look the other way to traffic people. We're going to put it all out for the American people. All of it. Yeah, they have to understand something. We're going to hit you with a blowtorch, okay? No more games. We're going to hit you with a blowtorch. That blowtorch, we're going to not just deconstruct it, we're going to rip it apart. CIA, the FBI, the DNI, the CIA, all of them. And we're going to release every single...
He was on fire. Steve Bannon, a roaring crowd, tells the Federal Reserve Bank, here we go. I mean,
we've got to stop the massive spending and what's destroyed the economy. We also have to begin... And we've got to stop the massive spending and what's destroyed the economy. We also have to begin to end the Fed. And we need to get him back of independent cryptocurrencies, not a central bank digital currency where they're going to control you, correct? And most importantly, he's got to seal the southern border, and we got to start the deportation of 10 to 15 million illegal alien invaders. We have a man who's got a really successful show. Everybody watches it. I watch it as often as I can. And he's a smart guy, and he's actually got a big heart, but I won't tell people that because I'll ruin his reputation. Steve Bannon. Where's Steve? Where is he? Thank you, Steve. He's great.
Trump giving him a shout out there. I wish I could find Steve Bannon and close the border, deport 10 to 15 million illegals. Most of us would think that was probably a good start. Hard to see. Calls for the complete dismantling. Let's see here. I would like to find the clip. Let's see here.
What they've done is something even worse. They've turned the legal system. They've turned the legal system, whether it is bankruptcy, whether it is taking somebody's law license, whether it's debanking. And they have the greatest president this nation's had since Abraham Lincoln. And they're about to put him, by the way, on the 11th of July, they're going to sentence him for multiple years in prison. You understand that, right? You understand what they're doing in New York, and then they're going to limit how he can travel. Now it's going to be court supervised. Why is that? To steal the election. To steal the election. Under no circumstances can they have the Trump administration take back over. They can't have MAGA rule the country. They don't care about this election. They don't care how many votes we get. They're going to fight us every step of the way. Look, it's between now and November 5th. And what Charlie and the team here and you guys are going through these workshops and get out the vote and chase the ballots, and voter integrity is everything. But just winning in November is just the first step. Then from November 5th to the 6th, Jamie Raskin is going to try to steal the election on January 6th. They're already talking about right now, they're already going to say President Trump's an insurrectionist. And we will never certify an election of an insurrectionist. Raskin talks about it all the time. That's why we have to take the House, even by just one seat. And then, starting on high noon on the 20th of January, when President Trump takes his hand off the King James Bible, Now, are all you folks going to be there on that day? You better be. We're going to have one hell of a party that night, are we not? They haven't seen a party like that since Andrew Jackson's crowd showed up, taking the drapes out of the White House. I think after Biden, we're going to have an exorcism, correct? That afternoon. For Joe Biden and Dr. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, all in the Biden. They're a bunch of feral dogs, right? It's a family of feral dogs. We're gonna have to fumigate. We're gonna have to fumigate and have an exorcism. That's when the real work starts. The real work's gonna start on the afternoon of the 20th. And the first thing we gotta stop the forever wars, particularly in Ukraine. No more money for Ukraine, not a penny. Not a penny. We've gotta stop the massive spending and what's destroyed the economy. We also have to begin to end the Fed. And we need to get him back of independent cryptocurrencies, not a central bank digital currency where they're going to control you, correct? And most importantly, he's got to seal the southern border, and we got to start the deportation of 10 to 15 million illegal alien invaders.
He was on fire. Yeah, look, saying a lot of the right stuff, right? We got to end the Fed. We have to we need to look at cryptocurrencies. We need to work with cryptocurrencies. I mean, this is a whole new, we're in uncharted territories. I don't know if Trump will be able to get back in office. You heard him. They are going to put him in jail. I agree with that. I don't think that they went this far to not put him in jail. They're going to put him in jail. So we got to be ready for that. And then as well, Trump plays within the confines of the system. He doesn't appear to me to be the type of guy that really bucks the system totally and goes out on his own. He hasn't historically done that anyway. And so he's going to, by all appearances, go along with those constraints of the system. So we are in interesting times, folks. I really, I love doing the show every morning. Love talking to you guys about the markets. There are ways that you can change the trajectory of your life. It's not financial advice, entertainment purposes, educational purposes, and all that good stuff. But there is a movement now. People are realizing that the U.S. dollar is being used to enslave us, and it has been used to enslave us. You are more poor than you know, and it can all be taken like that, like that. The U.S. dollar is a debt instrument, but it's also a tax instrument. It's a tax instrument. As long as you're holding U.S. dollars, you can be taxed indefinitely, over and over and over again as they dilute the money supply. The central bank has been in charge of this country since 1913. 1913, they started the central bank. They passed the Federal Reserve Act. They also started the IRS. Coincidence? Of course not. Next year, we went to World War I. The FBI was started a couple years before that. They jailed everybody who was against World War I or went after him so hard. Then they confiscated everybody's gold in 1933. This is all the history they don't tell you. 1934, they made it illegal for you to own gold, all except the Federal Reserve. When they confiscated everybody's gold, who did they give it to? The central bank. They gave it to the Federal Reserve. The gold is in the Federal Reserve Bank in New York City, not in Fort Knox. I hope it's in Fort Knox, but I don't. I have a funny feeling that Nixon stopped the quote-unquote gold standard, which just meant stop selling our gold at $35 per ounce to people from overseas because you weren't allowed to own any. But I think maybe he did that because we were getting to be out of gold. So it's a new world. We have a lot going on. I love doing this, having a good time. I'm going to sign off for now. Another great show. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.